What's on tap today? We've got another live stream coming for you right now. I call this Happy Hour, College Football Happy Hour at Couz's Corner. I've got a very special guest on hand with us today, JPC, the Outlaw of College Football. What's up, JPC?
How's it going, brother? I like
Going
the
well, man.
term happy hour. It makes me think we're about to take some shots or something.
Well, we are going to take some shots. We're going to give some shots of
That's
top
right.
shelf college football knowledge, brother.
There it is. I set you up for that one, man. That's like an alley oop, man. You
Yes,
slammed it home.
there you go. We make a good team, don't
That's right.
we? Just wanted to jump on here. I didn't plan on doing a live stream today, but I'm having to work from home today because my daughter is unfortunately has COVID, so didn't want to travel today. And I had a few little bit of free time, so I thought I'd jump in here and do this. And to be honest, I haven't felt great today, so I don't really feel like recording and editing and all that mess. So I said, we'll just get in here and chat. I'm up for chatting. So
That's right.
uh, what I want to talk about, JPC, I want to get your thoughts on a few things. First of all, uh, I know you've been a busy man lately. Congratulations on becoming a new grandpa.
That's right. I didn't get my shirt on, man. It says the best dads get promoted to grandpa.
That's right. Real quick though, before I forget, tell everybody where they can find you.
I'm on YouTube, Outlaw of College Football. I'm also on Twitter at OCF Productions. And you can also holler at me on Facebook if you'd like to under Jesse Paul Clark.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Everybody go check out his channel. He does a lot of cool stuff over there. Touches a lot on Oklahoma, does some Alabama stuff, just anything college football related. JPC will talk about it. And if you sometimes like to hear a little bit of a few controversial topics, he's your
Yeah,
man. He's not afraid to ruffle some feathers.
that's right. They drag politics and sports, then we'll address it.
I hear you. Scotty B, the Better King. Thanks for hopping in, brother. Says the Pac-12 is waiting on the Big Ten on their TV contract, and they will go back to look into TV channels. If it isn't between 34 to 46 million contract, then Pac-12 teams might fend for themselves. Yeah, I heard the same thing. Basically, I think that's kind of the thought that the Pac-12 will probably stand pat if they can get anywhere near what they think they could make in the Big 12, they'll probably just stay where they are. There's no reason to jump at that point. But if they see that they're getting a terrible deal, then they may decide. Some of these teams may decide to jump to the Big 12. We'll be anxious to see. I don't think the Big 12 is in that much better shape, though. To be honest with you,
Well, they could be if that little rumor I heard the other day comes to fruition
which is what.
that Brett Yormark actually contacted Minnesota
Oh
about
yeah, yeah,
joining the Big 12,
yeah,
as well as there was thoughts that he might contact Nebraska, Iowa, and Wisconsin as well, the western side of the Big 10.
yeah. That's definitely it's obviously it's just a rumor at this point, but and I don't see those teams leaving the Big Ten because they're making
Yeah,
double the money basically. But like you and I kind of talked about, offline, who's to say the Big Ten doesn't look at this deal and say, okay, or these teams rather look at this and say, okay, we can make 65, 70 million here, but we have to travel a lot more. We have to play teams all the way on the West Coast. Our chances of getting in the college football playoff are continuing to diminish.
exactly.
We could go to the Big 12. Yes, right now the Big 12's deal is only making what 35, 40 million a year, but if they add us, that
That's
might go
right.
up to 50.
That's
We'd
right.
rather
That's what
make 50 million in the Big 12 where our travel's not as bad and we have a better chance to win than to make 65 in the Big 10 where our chances of winning are slim to none.
Well, that's what people keep screaming at me. And when I done that video, like you're crazy because there's too much of a money differential. But I said, well, it's just like my buddy Kuz was saying that if those teams were added, then the money would go up. It would sort of meet in the middle somewhere, and it wouldn't be as much of a loss. They probably still wouldn't be making as much money as they would be in the Big Ten. But for a fan base like Nebraska that's been irrelevant since they joined the Big Ten, in my opinion, I think Nebraska fans sort of yearn for those years of being relevant in the Big 12.
Right. And I don't know. I mean, there's a few teams in the Big Ten that probably aren't really bringing that much revenue. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
like
And,
Rutgers.
and well, They like Rutgers though because they're in New York, so that they're not letting Rutgers go. I don't think.
Yeah,
But
they say it all the time. But let me ask you an honest question: how many New Yorkers you think keep up with Rutgers football?
Not many. That's why I don't. I think they look at it from if they can get, they got the Big Ten network. So if they can get the Big Ten network in more households,
Yeah,
that's more people paying that monthly fee. And I think that's what they're looking at. They don't care if you watch the game as long as you subscribe to the Big Ten network. That's what they
now if
want.
Rutgers were to start winning, they would probably have a lot of bandwagon fans come out, sort of like those teams in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. But Big Ten media deal. Here's the article in the Athletic. I'm gonna share the screen here real quick. Uh, oops, hold on. I'm gonna pull this up and let everybody see it. You should be able to see it too, JPC.
I'm gonna have to lean forward and let y'all see my ugly mug so I can look at it.
Basically, uh, Nicole Auerbach, a very well connected writer for the Athletic, says, and most of you guys probably already know this, but it says in addition to obviously we know that ESPN is basically backed out of the deal, but it says the Big
Oh,
Ten is poised to deliver a stunner when it finalizes its media rights negotiations at some point in the coming days. ESPN has pulled out of media rights negotiations with the Big Ten in a stunning development that will end a 40-year relationship between the network and the conference. Goes on to talk about how CBS and NBC are stepping up as the tier 2 rights holders.
that's right.
Uh, they're looking at a noon game on Fox, which will be their primary rights holder. Then they're looking at a 3:30 game on CBS, and then a primetime game on NBC. And each of those networks are reportedly going to be paying them $350 million annually, which is $700 million. You add in the Fox deal plus whatever deals they might work up with streaming services. They're estimating that the Big Ten could potentially rake in up between 1.3 to 1.5 billion dollars in overall TV revenue.
Honestly, I'll be honest with you. I'm an SEC guy. I feel like that the Big Ten has stepped up, man. I think they've might have pulled a step ahead with the SEC with this deal.
Right.
It's a
I
pretty
agree.
nice deal. I wish we had. I'll be honest with you. I really don't like ESPN.
Right. A lot of people don't. I'm not a huge fan of them either. I don't even. Only time I ever turn ESPN on is if there's a football game on or a basketball game on I want to watch. That's it. I don't watch
That's
Sports
right.
Center. I don't watch any of that stuff. But
I don't watch any of their talk shows, man, because like we've discussed off the air before, I don't like talking about politics, but they force it right into our sports every time, man.
yeah,
That just aggravates me to no end. Then when we address it, then people get mad at us for talking about politics when they're the ones talking about it.
yeah, I agree. But and right here's where it was in the article about the 1.3 to 1.5 million. I had it on there. There it is. Plus, you add in the Big Ten Network money in there as well. I mean, so and when I did the math, that comes out to about 65. Or I'm sorry, right here it's 57.1 million, 2023. Uh, but the math I did came out to when you add USC and UCLA, I figured up. Uh, hey, okay, 80 million. There it is. Should receive at least 80 million per year from league coffers.
Hmm.
So they're
That's
going to
nice.
go up. They're going to go from 57.1 million a year to when they add USC and UCLA, they'll go up to 80.
I bet old Gary Danielson has a tent in his pants over that deal.
Who's that now?
Gary Danielson, the announcer for CBS,
Oh,
because CBS lost the SEC after
right.
20. I think it's after 2024 that no longer CBS will be televising SEC games, and it goes
Right.
right hand in hand with this deal. That way, Gary Danielson don't lose his job. Plus, he'll be in the Big Ten. Gary
Mhm.
Danielson graduated from Purdue.
Right. I got you. That's interesting. And here it talks about too. What's this mean for the Pac-12 and the Big 12? Well, my first initial thought was, well, it's not going to uh, leave enough. There's not going to be enough time slots for the Pac-12 and the Big 12 because NBC. When you got three networks in there, that's a lot of inventory being taken up already on Saturdays,
All right.
right? because you've got the
Right.
Big Ten's going to be on all three of those networks at least one time every Saturday. So
That's right.
now you're almost relying solely on ESPN to an extent for most of
Exactly.
your coverage
Well,
because
could
Fox is already committed to the Big Ten. CBS and NBC are committed to the Big Ten. Notre Dame's probably going to renew another deal with NBC too, so they're going to get the rest of the airtime on NBC. So that basically only leaves ESPN's networks and some streaming services.
well, could
They're going,
Amazon come in and maybe save the Pac-12?
oh yeah,
Amazon,
potentially, yeah. Amazon, Apple is an option.
Amazon ought to get together with the Pac-12 and the Big 12 and try to form some kind of big Western coalition. I've always said that, man.
Well, there are a lot of people are saying that. John Wilner, a Pac-12 writer who a lot of us Big 12 fans have been debating with on Twitter, but he's very respected media guy out in the West Coast. He's been preaching that the Pac-12 and Big 12 should merge for years. Now he said it doesn't need to be a full-on merger necessarily, but at least some kind of TV partnership.
It'd be a lot better than that loosely knit alliance that was really
Oh yeah,
short-lived, right?
yeah. And he said Bob Bowlesby seemed to be on board with it, but I
You know,
don't
the
think.
Pac-12 should have really jumped on it last year. They had a chance. The Big 12 was teetering last year, and the Pac-12 could have jumped on it last year, but they believed Kevin Warren and the Big Ten were with them, and it turns out that Kevin Warren set them up. In
Yeah,
my
he was.
opinion,
Oh,
that
it was
was
terrible.
pretty low down to me. I mean,
Yeah,
you got to admit he's a shrewd businessman. This is a good ass deal for the Big Ten, but the way he done it, man, it just don't set right with me.
yeah, but yeah, and of course, he's going to say, "Well, they reached out to us," but I don't know that I believe that
I don't believe that either. Well, I
because
can't really say much because Oklahoma and Texas basically did the same shit.
yeah. Michael Wall says, "Okay, need to give 9 more likes as I see 12 viewers. Of course, we're up to 19 viewers now, but I see 12 viewers. If I'm giving a like, others can too. Yeah, everybody, please hit that thumbs up button for us. Get this live
Just click
stream
off
pushed out.
temporarily, hit that like button and hit live check, and you're right back in here with us.
Absolutely. Doesn't take you but a second, and you can still hear what we're saying even if you click off
Do they
the full
provide you
screen
with
mode.
the heart thanks option on this live stream?
I don't know if there's the heart thanks option, but I mean, obviously you can do a super chat, which is basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, hit that super chat. It'll
Juan
jump you ahead of the line.
Juan says, I did read yesterday some of the networks are planning to bid on Big 12 content, but it wouldn't be Tier 1 games. They were probably shopping for Tier 2 games, I think. Yeah, I read the same thing, Juan. So basically, I mean, CBS and Fox are still going to have a couple other time slots where they can fit some games in, but those are limited now, right?
Right.
And then you count ESPN's already going to have the SEC game every Saturday at 3:30, I guess it is. Plus, they're going to have ACC games on because they still have that deal with the ACC. So,
Well,
but they need a lot more. I mean, ESPN, Disney's got ABC to fill. They've got ESPN to fill. They got ESPN2 to fill. Plus, they have to put games on their secondary networks.
one thing
ESPNU
that the one thing the Pac-12's never been able to control is the time zones. That's really always been a hindrance for them, man, because they're so far behind in the time zones. If they could just get their fans to be a little more supportive out there, that might help as well.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. Dennis Haiti says, well, but that before I read Dennis's comment, the Pac-12, one of the things they talk about is how they're so attractive because they get that late night time. So they're the only conference that can play games late at night, and ESPN needs that time slot to put games on because they're the only network. AB something I hadn't thought about, but I heard on a YouTube. I think it was a YouTube channel the other day. He said, ABC, CBS, Fox, they all have some of them have programs on at night. You know what I'm saying? They may not need
Uh,
they,
what I
they don't
don't
want
get,
they don't want games on at 11:30 at night because they
what
have
I
local
don't get
news
is
and other
why
things.
I don't get why the Pac-12 continues to take shots to Big 12 when they should be mad at the Big 10. In my opinion, it's like they got Stockholm syndrome with the Big 10 or something from all the Rose Bowl brainwashing for like
Yeah,
50 or 60 years.
yeah,
Instead of taking shots to Big 12, they need to be mad at the Big 10.
Yeah, and that's what doesn't make sense to me. Kevin or George Kliavkoff at the media day didn't even bring up the Big Ten,
Yeah,
but yet wanted to throw shots at the. Which a lot of that, Big 12 Twitter has been fans on Twitter have been just absolutely destroying the Pac-12 on Twitter, and it's got Pac-12 media people involved in it and everything else. Uh,
you
Dennis
think
Haiti
that
says, "Go ahead."
you think that like North Dakota State would ever move up a division? I mean, they got a pretty nice cult following, but I
Maybe. I
don't know
mean,
if it would.
they might be able to get into one of the Group of Five conferences like the
Yeah,
MAC or the Conference USA, maybe something like that. Obviously, they wouldn't jump Power Five from the get go. I wouldn't think. Dennis Haiti says Couz's Corner. If NBC is paying $350 million for 20 of the Big Ten's Tier B games, Notre Dame is getting the $75 million a year they were shooting for, given the average audience size. That's probably right, Dennis. That's what I'm thinking as well. Which would like, which means Notre Dame will stay independent if that happens, and
that aggravates me for some reason.
which may actually put a hold to conference expansions and realignment. Maybe, who knows? Because I don't know that there's any other team that the Big Ten can add right now that's going to add value. That's going to add $80 million in value. Who's going to do that? Washington, I don't think is going to give them $80 million. I don't think Oregon, as good as Oregon is, I don't think they bring $80 million in value.
If you're looking for, if you want to try to corner the market on the second highest money making sport, they might consider some basketball schools like Kansas or North Carolina or Duke.
Yeah.
Of course, you got the ACC crap with the deal. It's to 2036, but I heard that if they can get enough of them to leave, that grand rights goes away.
Yeah, they would have to be up to 8 teams, I think,
Right.
or at least 8 teams, I should say.
Because I know your hated rival, Pittsburgh, they would probably make a good addition for the Big Ten.
They are AAU accredited, which helps. But their football brand is not very big. I don't know if that would. They may not move the needle in that regard, but they do have pretty good academics.
Now, let's say let's say they did that. Let's say they moved to the Big Ten. At that point, would West Virginia fans still want to join the ACC? I mean, the thing about joining the ACC is you'd be right back where your old rivals again, is what I've heard from a lot of West Virginia fans.
Right.
So if Pittsburgh moves to Big Ten, would y'all then at that point want to move to the Big Ten or the SEC?
If they were the only team that that left, then we'd still be closer to travel. But a lot of that talk's kind of quieted down. I mean, heck, even Golden Blue Dude's now saying he don't want to be in the ACC. So
Really,
yeah. So I mean, because I think we all see that the ACC may not be that stable either, and you're not going to make any more money there.
yeah, he was on that ACC wagon for a while. It looks like he's jumped off a little bit.
He still says the ACC wants West Virginia.
Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know Pittsburgh's y'all's longtime rival. Y'all want to get at them, but man, y'all belong in the SEC, man. Y'all really do.
I'd love to get in the SEC.
The culture, the people in West Virginia, smells just like SEC football to me, brother.
Well, I mean, and it would get the SEC into a brand new market because we have, believe it or not, a lot of people don't understand this, but we actually are Morgantown, West Virginia is part of the Pittsburgh media market.
There you go.
They're only 75 miles away.
There you go.
And when I stay in a hotel in Morgantown, I turn the news on. It's coming out of Pittsburgh a lot of times. So I mean, they share a media market.
You can get in that Western Pennsylvania market without being in Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and plus you get the whole state of West Virginia basically, which is 1.7 million people, and that's not a lot of people, but it's 1.7 million more than you have now, is it not?
That's right.
So,
and they're passionate.
Absolutely,
they care about their college sports,
and they show up on Saturdays.
These big city schools like Southern Cal and Miami, they're Fairweather fans to me.
Yeah. Bama Talk, our boy Jonathan Lewis. Look at these goobers.
Speaking of goobers, man, what a big old goober head. Look at that big old goober head he's got.
Oh, man. Everybody, for anybody who don't know, college football with Jonathan Lewis, which is a broadcast partner for me and JPC both here, has kind of shifted his focus to now doing strictly Alabama stuff. So, and his channel name will be Bama Talk. So be on the lookout for him to get started over there at
Yeah, I'll be
Bama
honest.
Talk.
I wouldn't be podcasting if it wasn't for old Jonathan, man. I'd be still talking smack in Facebook groups.
I would probably be doing it, but I wouldn't have 3,100 subscribers. I'll
No,
tell you that.
I'd be chirping along like crickets.
I'd probably have about I might have hit 1,000 by now. I don't know. Browns and Beers says Nebraska Minnesota level matchups are going to end up at 7:00 prime time on Fox NBC. If the Big 12 can't outdraw that in TV viewers, then the Big 12 is having bigger problems than said viewership. Well, first of all, Browns and Beers, according to reports, the 7:00 primetime game on NBC will be a Big 10 game, so that's already out of the picture. Now, Fox would need some primetime games potentially, so there is that's still a possibility. If the Pac-12, see, here's where the Big 12 might be at a disadvantage. The Pac-12's media deal is up a year earlier than the Big 12's, so the Pac-12 is going to be able to nail down a contract before the Big 12 is. So the Big 12 is basically going to be stuck with what's left over, and that's a little concerning.
Well, John Kurtz said something pretty poignant the other night, man. He was talking about that the Big 12 might need to watch their back with ESPN because they already tried to put the hurt on them by encouraging some of the Big 12 teams a couple of years ago to leave and go to the AAC. Because, ESPN owns the rights to AAC, and ESPN, they think, was trying to push the AAC to become a Power 5 conference at the expense of the Big 12, and they could still have that idea in the back of their head.
Well, maybe, but the AAC just lost a lot of clout when they lost their three best brands.
Yeah, did y'all take them?
Huh?
Y'all actually the ones that took the brands. You're like,
Yes.
all right, y'all gonna try that? We'll just take your shit.
Yeah, I mean, we are. And speaking of which, Juan, big Houston Cougar fan,
That's
says,
right.
Coos, have you seen Ross Dellinger's latest article that came out a bit earlier dealing with the Big Ten deal and how it affects P-12 and Big 12? I have not read that article yet, Juan. I did hear an interview with Ross, though. I think it was yesterday, maybe on 365 Sports, where I think he was talking about it. So
If they end up making Texas play Houston, which Texas doesn't want to play Houston because there's a little history there. Texas went on the road to play Houston one year, and there was some kind of issue with the stadium, and some of the Texas fans were put in harm's way, and that's why Texas claims they don't want to play Houston anymore. Now, that may just be something that Texas made up, but that's what I hear. But it would be pretty funny if Texas had to go play Houston before they left for the SEC.
It would be. I'd love it. And I hope they have to go to Houston.
Exactly.
David Cummings, thank you for the $10 super chat. And by the way, guys, David is also a Mountaineer Maniac level member of Couz's Corner. He says the Power 5 teams should have to play other Power 5 teams for their non-conference games if the networks really want to make money and forget about these FCS games. I agreed with that to an extent, David. The only problem with that is this. Those FCS teams that I heard this on a podcast yesterday. And I don't remember who said it. I listen to so many freaking podcasts, man. I can't ever remember who says it. But apparently, the money that these Power 5 teams actually pay these FCS teams to come and play them, and it makes up about 10% of their overall athletic budget. So they would take a huge financial hit if they didn't get those games.
Right.
So I would feel a little bad for the FCS teams, but I tell you the direction college football's heading, it looks like nobody cares about anybody but themselves. So,
well, also those games to me provide you a chance to play your players that never get playing time. You get your third and fourth string and your scout team players in there, and it gives them valuable experience down the road for you when they do have to become your starters against these Power 5 schools.
right. Kenneth Hill, thanks for chiming in. He's a loyal supporter of the channel. We would fit perfect. It's 3016. I thought it was 30. I thought it was 3,160, Kenneth, but it is what it is.
He's just got the numbers backwards.
That's all right. No biggie. Either way,
it's gonna be 3,600 after this. Because we're breaking it down for y'all today. Y'all want to know what's up? Here it is.
Yeah, we're dropping truth bombs today, folks.
Right.
bombs.
Good. I'm waiting for those shots you promised me, and Patron shots.
But Kenneth, everybody, Kenneth, appreciate the comment, Kenneth. Thank you for your support, man. Jim Williams, thanks for hopping on. The key to the Big Ten: look at research money. In 2019, the pre-COVID, the Big Ten made $700 million in total athletics, but $8.5 billion in research money. Right, and that's why a team like Stanford to me would make sense if they're going to go if they want to move west. Stanford, I don't know, it was some huge number that Stanford gets in endowment money. It's like $7 billion or something a year, just in endowments alone.
Probably
Uh,
$7 billion.
yeah, with a B, and it may have been more than that. I don't remember what the number was. It was a huge number. They make more money off financial endowments than they do, way more money than they do from TV contracts. So some of these schools don't really. I mean, nobody's going to turn it down, but a lot of these schools don't really focus enough on athletics. They don't really need that $80 million. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but it's probably not a big deal to them. Notre Dame's one of those. I think Notre Dame would be willing to sacrifice a few tens of millions of dollars or 20 million dollars if it meant they could stay independent.
Yeah, Notre Dame is, a worldwide university too. I mean, they get donations from everywhere, not just endowments and athletics, but probably religiously as well.
Right. That's true. One says it's true. The situation is called Bleachergate. I'm not sure what he's referring to.
Yep, there you go, the bleacher game. I'm not sure about the specifics and what happened, but maybe you could fill us in on that one.
Yeah, please do, because I'm lost on that one. That's something I'm not familiar with.
That's some pretty epic stuff.
The Dellinger article. Thanks for DMing that to me, Juan. I appreciate it.
Has more what? What did he say? I don't understand what he's saying. The mic off?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. My mic just muted itself. I never touched it. Anyway, he's saying that WVU has more of the media market than Pitt does. I don't know that they have more of it, Murph, but they definitely have a large portion. I'd say at least a third.
I'll tell you what they probably do have, and it's just like what I mentioned with the USC and Miami. They probably got fans that are actually loyal. West Virginia, that is. I mean, you may be able to disagree with me on that because you know more about the Pittsburgh fan base than I do, and I know you got a lot of Pittsburgh buddies.
Yeah, they're more loyal, but Pittsburgh, West Virginia fans are more loyal because Pittsburgh's a pro sports town, and anytime you have a pro sports town,
Exactly.
the pro sports runs the deal. And West Virginia Mountaineers are our pro team. I mean, that's
You know
how we
what?
look at it.
You know what I think that is?
What's that?
A cop out. Just like USC fans. Oh, we don't go watch the games because we can go to the beach and play volleyball. Like, whatever. Y'all ain't loyal, man. If they were out there winning 11, 12 games a year, you'd be in the stands. That's not called having more to do. That's called not having any loyalty.
Larry Pilgrim says, thanks for stopping in, Larry. Says Big 12 ends up with a $300 million FS1 deal, and Pac-12 ends up with $400 million. Very possible.
And do you think, I was talking about a while ago, Pac-12, when they had a chance to, take some teams from the Big 12 a couple of years ago, do you think maybe the Pac-12 missed the boat on BYU?
Absolutely they did, but they're so hell-bent on sticking to their guns on their culture that they don't want to add a religious school.
Well, when you're adding schools, man, they need to take religion out of the mix completely.
I agree with you, but they look at BYU's views as beyond religion. Some of them do, because I've had
BYU's was the last non-Power 5 school to win the national championship.
Well, I've actually heard people say, and you can take. I don't want to get too far off on politics, but or social issues, but I've heard people that live out there, they're fans or alums of one of those schools, say that BYU's goes beyond religion and goes into discrimination and bigotry.
Really?
So you can take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it because when I'm looking at a school like that and athletics and sports, I'm looking at athletics and sports, not their religion.
Right.
But if
I'm
there's some
with you.
crazy, now if it is something really crazy like you're talking about, then you have to look at it. If they're doing some crazy stuff like David Koresh or something,
Right. Well, I don't know that it's that. It's just the Pac-12. Look, Pac-12 is more left leaning. We all know that for the most part, and
we all know they still like that polygamy a little bit.
right. I mean, I don't know that had anything to do with it. I think it was more along the lines of their.
You know, they got harems in Montana and Wyoming.
I think it was more along the lines of their LGBTQ
And
views and all that kind of stuff, which I'm not going to touch.
well, they
But
don't. I'm not going to say what I think about that. I'll
yeah,
get
I'm
me
going
in
to leave it
trouble.
alone. But I mean, they just don't. They're not a fit. They're not a fit for the culture.
Cut my own head off.
Yeah, really. Sergeant Pickles says, "Good afternoon. What's up, Sergeant Pickles?
Hell
Thanks for
yeah,
hopping on, brother.
I like
He's
that
got a
name,
cool
Sergeant
name, isn't it?"
Pickles.
Behringer says, "In a couple of years, the Big 12 will have 4 teams in Texas and 2 in Kansas. That's half of the 12 teams. Not very big."
Okay,
I'm not really sure I understand his. I mean, I'm not really sure I understand his
it's
point.
just a shot at the Big 12, and now I do agree that.
I think he's saying because there's half their conference is only in 2 states. I guess is his point.
Well, I mean, yeah, whatever. They used to call the Big Eight back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do agree though the Big 12 and the Big 10 both needed to change their name.
Yeah, probably a little too late for that.
Your casual football fan don't know the difference between the two.
Good point.
So
Let's see.
do you think that Kansas could get in the Big 10 on basketball alone? Because I don't.
No, I don't think they. I don't think so either.
But if I was going to have a basketball school, Kansas would be right up there.
I saw somebody mention kind of what we were talking about. But anyway, I'm not going to touch it. But he was talking about the woke culture of the Pac-12. Tide guy says, "You guys don't understand the woke culture of the Pac-12."
Woke.
That's kind of what I was referring to. It's just a different
Woke.
culture, different way of looking at things.
They done ruined the word woke, man. I can't say I woke up in my sleep now for nothing. They just call them skittle shitters like I do.
Sergeant Pickle says, "I will admit some Pac schools are fair weather, but Oregon, Washington, Utah stand apart." I'll agree with that. Those three fan bases support their teams right there.
That's right. That's right.
They do.
I'll be honest with you, and not speaking for Coos, but I'm speaking more towards the California fan base, all the California
Yeah,
schools.
same here.
Oregon, Washington, even Washington State to some degree, and Utah. The Utah fans are pretty damn rabid. I like the Utah fans.
Yep, they are. All right, let's move on to another topic here. This one could be a little bit controversial, but we'll try to keep it. That's the Cale Gundy resignation.
Oh.
JPC and I have a little bit different opinion on this. I think I did 2 videos. Actually, I had to do 2 videos in one day because my opinion changed after new information come out. But
I ended up actually doing 2 videos too. It was just a day later.
yeah, actually you're right. But basically, here's my views on it. If he was reading off the iPad and came across the word once and accidentally said it, then yeah, it was a total accident, and he could have stopped himself, said, "Hey, I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry." Put the iPad down, stopped reading, moved on. But if he read it once and kept reading it, knowing the word could be in there again, and he said it again and again and again, then he should have known better. Because as a coach, and when 78% of your team is black, you have to know better than to say that word. And I mean, it just is what it is. That's just whether we like it or not. It's the times we live in, and even if he was joking or even if it was rap lyrics or whatever, in my opinion, he needs to be more sensitive to the people in the room.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about it. And
Yeah.
I don't think it means Cale Gundy's a bad person at all. I think he just made a mistake, probably lapse in judgment. And hopefully he lands on his feet and gets a job somewhere else. But I also think that Brent Venables did what he had to do in order to save face, so to speak, and not let this spiral out of control. What's your thoughts?
If it were me and I was reading that, I would probably stopped and, paused and maybe just said N-word or something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, he probably should have known better. I mean, he's been doing this long enough to know better than to even say it once, to be honest with you. But if you're going on principle alone, if someone's writing something and you're trying to read it verbatim to sort of punish them, I guess, for not watching the film session, if it's not really your words and you're not really directing it at someone, I don't see where the issue is, because they're the ones that saying it, and they shouldn't be able to say it either if someone else can't say it.
Now that I agree with. I do think the player should probably, and he might have been. I don't know what the player had to do or if there was any punishment. I don't think the player should have been suspended or kicked off the team necessarily, but they should have, run extra laps or something. Whatever the punishment is, because I think coaches get held to a higher standard than players do because they're the leaders.
He should have been punished, but it probably should have been something like sensitivity classes, or maybe set out for a couple of games and punished monetarily. But to take his entire career away from him after 30 years with Oklahoma, I think that was a little overkill. The player, I come to find out, I think it was Nicholas Anderson, whose brother Rodney Anderson played for Oklahoma
Mm-hmm.
a while back, and he was the one, I think, that had the lyrics out. He was rapping. I think he was either writing a rap song or he was looking at one. And Cale was trying to punish him in front of class, like in high school when you're passing a note around, the teacher reads it, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
But like you said, he should have known better than to even say the word. He should just, he could have said it without saying it, and they would have known exactly what he was saying.
Right. I agree. Sergeant Pickle says fair or unfair, people got to be smart enough not to use that language. And that's kind of,
Well, that's true. But my point is, everybody should be smart enough not to use that language. Whether you be white, black, purple, Asian, whatever, if one race can't say it, the other race shouldn't be able to say it, is my point.
Joey Foster's popped in. Thanks. Hey, Joey. What's up, man? He says, howdy, everyone. Let's see.
Joey's in the house.
Yep. MD White says Big 12 owns naming rights to Big 14, Big 16, and I believe Big 20. Interesting. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Shit.
Tide guy here talking about Cale Gundy. He says he will be a Bama analyst by November.
Who?
Cale Gundy will be an analyst in Alabama by November.
Yeah. Go to the Saban car wash, get cleaned up, brother.
There you go. He's definitely known for that, isn't he?
Yeah. I wouldn't mind him coming and coaching our wide receivers. That's actually a pretty damn good idea.
Troglodite, I guess I pronounced that right, says, would you rather West Virginia go to the Big Ten or SEC? SEC by a long shot.
SEC, baby.
We would not be a cultural fit in the Big Ten. Even we're geographically closer, but culturally we couldn't be any more different.
I wouldn't want to travel to the big house every year myself.
And SEC still gets us fairly close. I mean, SEC still not bad geographically. It's still a lot better than the Big 12.
No,
you
it's
got
not
Kentucky,
bad at all.
right? You got Kentucky next door. We're not that far from Tennessee. It wouldn't be that big of a stretch to go to. And plus, you've got Atlanta's got a big airport, be easy to fly into. Knoxville's got a nice airport. You've got, it'd be easy to travel in the SEC, I believe, for the most part.
West Virginia and Kentucky, to me, actually have more of a history together as far as outside of sports. I mean, you got the Hatfield and McCoys, man. Well, you can have the Hatfield and McCoy Bowl every year.
Oh, that'd be great. And Neil Brown's from the Kentucky, so that could be, and he worked there for a couple of years. That could be a little rivalry.
Right. Like he said,
like he said the other day in a press conference when he was talking about the flooding that took place in Eastern Kentucky, and he was sending prayers and thoughts out to the people over there. He said, we're kind of kindred spirits here with them, and it's a good way of putting it.
And Kentucky's been catching hell, man. They got them tornadoes last year, and now they're flooding, man. And now already it's a poor area. Some of the areas in Kentucky are some of the poorest in the nation.
Yeah. Joey Foster says, how come they can say it, write it, sing it, and preach it, but dare us read it? That is nuts.
That's right, Joey. That's right, brother.
And Kenneth Hill says, where's the thick skin? He's talking about the players. The thing is, they are players. Why would you have to babysit? Do they need pacifiers passed out?
That's right. Yeah. I think they need a pacifier stuck in their mouth.
I was called a racist under my first video. which pissed me off. I
You
told
know
that
why
guy
you was called a racist?
because I disagreed with him,
Not only that, but you're white.
and that's what I told him.
And ironically, what is that? That's judging somebody by what? Their
Skin
skin
color.
color. So
Yep.
you're being racist about calling me racist.
That's what I told him too. But it pissed me off. I haven't used that word. I was probably, I'm not going to lie. When I was a teenager, I probably said it, but I haven't used that word. I can't remember the last time. It's been years, you know. Uh, I detest that word, man. I detest it.
It
I'm,
shouldn't. Nobody owns that word,
I,
and
I,
so
yeah,
nobody should be able to say it, or everybody should be able to say it. It's just like the horns down and the horns up. If you're gonna penalize for horns down, you got to penalize for horns up.
I agree. Yeah, when I was young and stupid and didn't know any better and thought, didn't realize the harm it did. I used, I used to use that word. But what people have to understand is some of us grew up in areas. I was never around a black person, never until I was older. So, people need to realize that we don't. Until I had to educate myself on what it meant, and the ramifications of it. And once I did, I changed my views on it.
A lot of the older generation sometimes use that word, and they don't even use it in negative connotation. They're just using it as that's what they were taught that it was called. It's like if someone tells you that an apple's called an apple, well, you're going to call it an apple until someone else tells you, hey, you're not supposed to call it an apple.
Right. Sergeant Pickle says none of my black sergeants in the Marines let anyone say it the way it should be.
That's right. That's right.
All right,
Bring in the heat, Pickles. Bring it on, brother.
Yeah, Sergeant Pickles is a Pac-12 guy too, I believe.
Sorry about that.
But he's very thoughtful and he's very
He's
open-minded.
he's in the good side of the Pac-12,
And
right?
he's
Is he an
very.
Oregon fan?
I'm not sure. Sergeant Pickles, what team are you a fan of? If you don't mind, let me know in the comments. I'd like to know. But he's always putting out some very thoughtful tweets and very interesting stuff on Twitter as well.
You know, back in the day when Arizona State was really good, that used to be a hard place to go play down there at Sun Devil Stadium, man. If they could ever get that magic back, it would be a good team to have, I think, in the Big 12 in the future. If they decide they wanted to part ways with the Pac-12, I think Arizona State should maybe be the first team y'all go after.
Yeah, I don't. I agreed with that early on because of the Phoenix market, but the more I've learned about it, I think Arizona's actually a better fit for us than Arizona State because of the culture and
What's Joey saying?
race has nothing to do with it. The white man read what the black man wrote and was fired. Where's the Constitution? Where's the common sense?
That's right. That last two words, Joey, is what people conveniently lose when they want their way just about anything. They lose common sense.
Sergeant Pickles says Washington Huskies.
Washington, good. That's a good deal there. Then
Yeah.
Oregon and Washington State, the Great Northwest, those fans are a lot different than the California fans. They're very passionate fan bases.
Yeah.
As well as Oregon State, too, I guess.
Tide Guy says Behringer meat and Sergeant Pickles are jarheads. Hoorah.
That's right, man. The Marines have been bringing the heat on my channel. I don't know about yours, man, but I've been getting a lot of Marine subscribers, man, and they lay the law down, man. They got a spine. They say what they mean.
I want to ask those guys a question. This has nothing to do with college football, but it's a live stream, so who cares? Is it offensive for somebody that wasn't in the Marine Corps to say hoorah? Because I like saying it. Not to me, I say it as a form of to honor them. That's
I
the way I
like
look
saying
at
it
it.
too. I also like Semper Fi. Semper Fi is pretty epic.
These kids, Gen Z takes over. I feel sorry for our country. Kenneth Hill. P. Digits says common sense isn't common anymore. Common sense requires common morals. What would have happened to Howard Cosell today with calling a player a monkey? He definitely wouldn't get another 10 years in broadcast. You got that right. Team if WV and the SEC would work for me, I could actually attend games without having to drive 10 hours to Morgantown.
Like
I'm within
so
2 to 3
many
hours of
words.
several SEC teams. What's that?
So many common words in our language are now have so many negative things attached to them, and you can't say them without someone thinking you're a racist or something. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like the word monkey, I don't get that one. I don't understand that one at all.
Well,
I'll use that sometimes, but I'll use it on everybody.
yeah, I've used it for white people too, just as like that guy's acting like a monkey, or and then I'll think I probably shouldn't have said that, but
Well, when I
I,
say someone is acting like a monkey, I mean they're acting like an idiot or a
idiot,
jester.
right? Yeah, but I've gotten to where now that I coach a youth basketball team, so I've become a lot more aware of what I say.
Like I called the USC fans one time. I said they were like a bunch of monkeys in the poo, playing in their monkeys in the zoo playing in their poo, and they tried to act like it was racist or something. I said, well, I didn't say anything about black people,
Yeah.
white people, Chinese people. I just generalized, I guess.
Sergeant Pickle says Couz's Corner no doesn't bother me at all. Good, because I've done it before and I've never gotten any reaction, so I didn't know if that was good or bad.
His daughter, back to the Cale Gundy thing. His
Yeah,
daughter, came out and made a tweet about that, and then she deleted it. I don't understand why people make those tweets now because it's going to get out there. There's no need of deleting it. Once you've said it, man, it's been screenshot 1,000 times after it's been
yeah,
up about 3 or 4 minutes. So you might as well just leave it up at that point instead of trying to walk it back, because then it makes you look even worse, because it makes you look like you said something wrong.
yeah. I think she was defending her dad, but without her being in the room, I don't know if she really knows what's going on.
And you have people attacking her about, oh, well, she does this in her personal life. I'm like, what does that have to do with this situation, man? Why y'all got to go low blow on somebody just because she's defending her father?
Yeah. Dennis Eddy says, at Kenneth Hill, have you listened to any of the Gen Z podcasts recently? There is one with 3 college graduates asking, what is a Ukraine? And I don't even know where Russia is. It's sad. That is sad. Wow.
What is Ukraine? What's that got to do with it?
He's, he's talking about Generation Z doesn't even know that Ukraine's a country.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Says K-Zoo, I don't know how you pronounce it, but says, Coos, are you going to the West Virginia Pitt game? I am not, and I regret not getting tickets. But now they're
Back
so
to,
dang expensive. I don't
back
even
to
want
Ukraine real quick. Um, why are we worried about what's going on in Ukraine when we're having somewhat of an invasion ourselves on our southern border?
Yeah, I'm not getting on that topic.
I just want to sneak that in there real quick.
That's fine. Go right ahead, brother. Todd Guy says, I'm glad I'm old and none of my stupid moments was caught on video. You and me both, brother.
Man, if
Which I,
they'd had Facebook and YouTube back in the 1980s,
yeah.
man, yeah, I would probably be in a lot of trouble.
Let's move on to the last topic, which is who will make the college football playoff? JPC, I'm going to let you go first. At the end of the season, what 4 teams do you think will be in the college football playoff?
Well, usually I try to read a few of my books, the Bibles of college football, I call them, the Athlons and the Lindys and whatnot. I haven't got my Lindys yet to really formulate an entire opinion on it. I mean, the captain obvious choices right now, probably Alabama and Ohio State, um, with a mixing of maybe, I don't know, Georgia and Clemson, maybe. That's been the top 4 that I've seen from a lot of people so far, is those 4 teams.
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted by a comment here. It says trouble or notorious, JPC. I'm not sure what he's asking, but maybe you know.
Trouble or notorious? Oh, I guess he's talking about my 1980s antics and
Oh,
how they had been caught on camera that I would have been fried.
I got you.
Well,
Well, the
I'm
four
not going to
teams,
talk about that because, I don't want to go back and convict myself of anything.
there you go. The 4 teams I would put in, or that I think will get in, will be the first three is a no brainer to me. I'm picking Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State. I think those 3 are, I don't want to say locks, but they're pretty close to locks. The fourth one I've been going back and forth on. First I said Utah, but then I changed my mind. I think Baylor gets in. But then I was doing a podcast the other day with some guys over at Country Roads Webcast, some other West Virginia podcasters, and I was privileged to be on their show, and we had the same question, and I picked Baylor to be the 4th spot because I think they're going to be really good this year. But then one of their one of the members of their team said, but he thinks the Big 12 is going to have so much parity that they're going to beat up on each other. So nobody will get in. And I thought he's got a good point there. So I don't think Baylor will get in just simply because I think the Big 12 is going to be a tough conference this year as far as the teams. There's going to be parity. The teams, there's not going to be one team that's, head and shoulders above everybody else like there usually is. So because of that, I think each team will probably lose a couple of games at least, and I think that will keep them out.
They could say you can say about just about any conference, though, right? I mean, the SEC is pretty tough to go through, but it happens. If the team's on a roll, sometimes it's just that destiny thing going on. I could see Baylor going through there, but I'm not sure about Baylor. Did they lose a lot on their defense? I mean, how are they looking on returning starters?
Baylor,
yeah,
they did lose several guys, but it's kind of a mixture. I mean, they lost several guys to the draft, but they also have a lot of guys coming back, so it's about 50-50, I think. But I'm more worried about their offense than their defense because they lost both of their top 2 running backs. They're changing quarterbacks, which I think they may actually be improving at quarterback. And they lost their top wide receiver, Tyquan Thornton, and they lost another one of the receivers too, and his name has totally escaped my mind. But they lost a lot on the offensive side of the ball, but I don't think they lost quite as much on the defensive side. But the thing is, everybody is so high on Dave Aranda as a coach that they feel like he's going to have them playing just as good as they did last season.
I think last year's Final Four, or whatever you want to call it, was I think it was refreshing for a lot of people because you had much different teams in there this time. You had a non-Power 5 school in Cincinnati. You had Michigan finally get in there. So I think it's good sometimes to have new names in there. And outside of Alabama, I'd like to see three new fresh faces in there.
Yeah, I would too, but I just don't. I think the world we live in, unfortunately, we're going to see the same teams, at least a couple of the same teams almost every year.
It ain't got to be astronomical. Like Cincinnati was sort of a big surprise, I guess.
Yeah.
But like instead of Ohio State, Michigan, maybe Wisconsin slip up in there, or maybe Iowa, or someone like that. Someone that's been middle of the road that's been close a few times. Iowa was close a few times. Michigan State did make it one year.
I'd love to see if, obviously, assuming West Virginia doesn't get in, which I don't think they will. I'd like to see Oklahoma State get in. To be honest with you, I think they've been on the cusp so many times.
Yeah, they have
of being a national championship contending team. They even had one season where they felt like they got robbed because they were. I think they only had one loss and ended up getting passed over by a 2-loss team or something. I don't remember what year that was.
Well, I remember one year Alabama had one loss, and it was to LSU, and it was back when it was the BCS, and it come down to Alabama or Oklahoma State, and they put Alabama back in there over them because of the BCS rankings at the time. But I don't think that Oklahoma State could have beat LSU in that game. I think that, I ain't saying it because I'm an Alabama fan. I think they did get that right, in my opinion.
Yeah. Sergeant Pickles is with you. He says he'd like to see Utah, Bama, Miami, and Wisconsin.
That's right. That'd be a nice little mixture.
Yep.
You'd have one team in there that's a norm, and then you'd have a bunch of fresh faces that aren't a bunch of Cinderellas. I mean, you can get away with one Cinderella, but people that always say they want to see a bunch of Cinderellas in there, they really don't. Everybody wants to see blue bloods or someone that's at least in a Power 5 in there. Like Wisconsin, who's, they're not a traditionally national championship winning program, but they've always been competitive and been really close. Just like Oregon. I wouldn't mind seeing Oregon get in there, maybe finally get over the hump. They've been close quite a few times.
Juan says, any dark horse contenders for the CFP? I don't really think Utah's a dark horse because there's people picking them. But I guess if I had to pick a dark horse, I'd say North Carolina State, maybe.
Oh, man. You stole my team, man.
And
I can't believe you said that one.
And I'm trying to think of one more. Kansas State.
Kansas State would be nice.
I think Kansas State's going to be really, really good.
I like to see Chris Kleiman do well. He done really well at North Dakota State. and now he's sort of middling at Kansas State. But it would be nice to see Kansas State get up in there. It would be nice if Bill Snyder could have won one.
Yeah, I agree with you. It'd been cool because that guy's a legendary coach.
Exactly.
I mean, I think Kansas State was on the verge of probably not even having football. They were so bad.
A lot of the trendy Cinderella pick, I don't know if you can call them Cinderella, has been Utah, though. A lot of people picked Utah to get in the Final Four as their dark horse. I don't know if you can really call them a dark horse, though, King, since they won the Pac-12 last year.
Well, I wouldn't call them a dark horse because there are people picking them. So a lot of people picking them. So,
right.
And the only reason they're picking them is because they think the Pac-12 is going to be an easier league.
Could Oklahoma, could the Sooners be considered a dark horse, considering they're starting a first-year head coach? Maybe the Oklahoma Sooners.
I don't know if you could really. I don't think you could really. To me, no blue blood can be considered a dark horse.
Yeah, 7-time national champion.
Yeah, but but there aren't many people picking that. So I guess in essence you could say that. I guess it depends on what your definition of a dark horse is.
Maybe Arkansas, Sam Pittman.
Joey Foster says he's called the playoff the last 2 years, and he's going for it again. Number 1, Alabama. Number 2, the OSU. Number 3, Baylor. And number 4, Utah. That wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, I know Ohio State tried to get a patent on the word "the," didn't they?
They got it, I think. My understanding. My dark horse pick, Houston.
I can't believe Joey give them their props with the word "the."
Well, he did.
Don't let them have that, Joey. They can't have that word, man. Just call them Ohio State or Ohio Stank. That's what I like to call them.
They might sue you if you don't.
Yeah, but they would. Big old stadium that looks like a toilet bowl.
Sergeant Pickle says Utah has big games against Florida, USC, and Oregon. They might have a shot even with one loss if they beat Florida. I think that's what a lot of people are thinking.
That's going to be a big game.
Yeah. They're not going to win all 3 of those games. I don't think.
If they can beat Florida at the beginning of the year, man, I think that could be some nice momentum for them.
Kenneth Steele says his dark horse is West Virginia.
What do you think about Florida State? Do you think they're ever going to come back to the Bowden and Jimbo Fisher days?
Probably not. I don't think they'll be that good. I think they'll get back to winning again, but I don't think they'll get back to being the
Florida State and Miami could get back to what they were. That would help out the ACC a lot.
Yeah, I think Clemson has kind of taken the mantle as the the team to beat in that conference. Joey says he used "the" so that we wouldn't think he was talking about Oklahoma State. The real.
Oh, okay. Well, you could just spelled it out. You'd be like Ohio Stank. What I call them.
Beers and Bears, Browns and Beers. I don't know what I said there, but it says read the Futility U Sports Illustrated article about K-State if you ever wanted to see just how much Bill Snyder improved K-State.
That's right. People don't realize that Kansas State literally was the worst program in America, winning percentage wise on all levels. Division I AA, as it was called back then, worst percentage ever. And he come in and actually won there and continued to win. I think he might even won a conference title there. I think the job he done and the kind of circumstances he had at Kansas State, he was probably a better coach than Nick Saban or Bear Bryant, just by the sheer fact that they had never won there, ever.
Right. Behringer says Michigan State and Penn State needs to step up their play. I think they will.
I think Michigan State is one of those teams a lot of people on their bandwagon too, because everybody likes Mel Tucker. Me personally, I think they're going to take a step back this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that he got that big of a raise and extension after one good season. That was a little bit shocking to me.
Yeah, another coach that everybody clamors about that I've never understood is Kirk Ferentz. Every once in a while they win 10 games, but most of the time they're like middling. They're like 7-5, 8-4 every year at Iowa.
Yeah, but I think it's because it's Iowa and it's hard to recruit there. I think that's why they get so much. They get so much praise.
That's why I think that's part of Nebraska's problem is that nowadays kids don't want to play in Nebraska, the state of Nebraska.
Yeah. I clicked on the wrong. Let me get to this comment first. Bill Snyder was part of Hayden Fry coaching tree from Iowa.
That's right.
I didn't know that.
And Iowa was sort of like Kansas State in a way before Hayden Fry came. They was really, really bad. And you look at his record, he's like, well, he's going 7-6 every year. Yeah, but you don't understand, I was going 1-10 before he came there.
Right. Sergeant Pickle says, what are the Big 12's plans after the dust settles? I don't see how you close the gap to Big 10 SEC in the long run, even adding teams. You can't. There's no team out there that gets you, other than Notre Dame, which they're not joining the Big 12, that gets you from $40 million a year to $80 million a year. There's just, you don't do it. What they have to do is just add. They need to find a way to make as much money as they can for themselves, and not. And
right.
They don't need to try to keep up with the SEC and Big Ten because it's not going to happen. They just bring in as much revenue as you possibly can. Try to get to that. If you can get to that 50, 60 million range, I don't. Well, you're not going to get to 60. If you can get to 50 million, in my opinion, the gap will be closed enough to where the teams will still be competitive on the field.
I think what they need is to shoot for the third best Power 5 conference to try to at least keep to have 3 Power 5 conferences. Because if you end up just having 2 Power 5 conferences, man, it's just going to be a monopoly to me, and it becomes boring when you have the same old teams in the playoffs. The Big 12, they could just become the third best, and they could work their way up from there. And a real simple answer to me to that is that you're going to have a Big 12 team step up and win a national championship without Oklahoma and Texas doing it once they leave. If you could get Oklahoma State, like you said, to finally break through, or Baylor, or Kansas State, one of those 3 teams could win a national championship, then they'd have to recognize it.
I don't even know if they'd have to win it if they could just get in the CFP and be in the top 10 consistently. You know what I mean? For a few years in a row. Joey Foster says only if Big 12 can add Oregon and Washington can they get $75 million. That's true, Joey. I forgot about them, but I don't think they're going to join. I think the only way those 2 schools join the Big 12 is if the Pac-12 basically collapses and they don't have a choice.
Yeah. Well, I think they're waiting around on the Big 10, in my opinion. I think that's a mistake on their part, man. I just like if USC and UCLA is just going to dip, and then the Big 10 is going to make them wait out there, just blowing in the wind, I would take steps to try to go to the Big 12 or get some kind of coalition going and say, screw the Big 10.
Yeah. Wilkie says Cale Gundy signs a 3-year, $3.5 million deal, fully guaranteed with the Cleveland Browns. That wouldn't surprise me.
Is what's his name still there? The
Who?
quarterback, what's his name?
Deshaun Watson?
No, the other one.
Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, is Baker Mayfield still there? Or are they going to trade him?
I don't even know. I don't keep
that would be a good match, Cale Gundy and Baker.
Philip
What
Anderson
he needs
says,
to do is go get a job with the Bengals, because Joe Mixon was taking up for him big time.
Yeah, he was. A lot of guys have come out in his defense, honestly. Philip Anderson says, a fellow YouTuber of yours is now asking, is the Big 12 in trouble? I don't think I'd go as far as to say they're in trouble.
I think they need to be leery of
yes.
the ESPN.
Leery's the best word.
I think they really need to watch their step with the Big 10. I'm not Big 10, but the ESPN, because of what ESPN tried to do. They won't admit to it, but they tried to kill the Big 12 a couple of years ago, in my opinion.
Who's that?
ESPN. I think ESPN tried to deep six the Big 12 because they tried to get the Big 12 teams to join the AAC, which they had the rights to.
Oh, yeah, Baker Mayfield's at Carolina now. I did know that. I had forgotten about that. Thanks for that, Tide guy. David Z. Seeing some new names on here, guys. Thanks for hopping on. Is the cowboy hat guy a West Virginia fan too? Who does he support? No, he's an Alabama fan, actually.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Tuscaloosa, so there wasn't much hope for me. I have been accused of being an Oklahoma fan here lately because I've done a lot of positive podcasts for the Sooners. And I do like West Virginia. I mean, I've done quite a few on them about them being a possible sleeping giant. West Virginia's another one of those programs that if they ever broke through and won a national championship, I think they could be like Clemson and probably win a few.
Yeah. Well, winning will attract better recruits, and it just snowballs from there.
That's
Oregon
right.
and Washington will stay in the pack unless a Big Ten offer comes. They have power there, but wouldn't in the Big 12. Yes and no. I think they could have some power. Well, I don't know though. I don't know that they're going to have more power than Oklahoma State or Baylor or West Virginia. Maybe I don't know. But they might be able to have some power because they're going to be the top 2 attractive brands in the league if they come.
Right.
But I don't want them to do uneven revenue distribution because that just causes problems.
Uneven or even?
Uneven.
Yeah, uneven causes a lot of issues.
I mean, that was the whole reason the Big 12 about collapsed the first time.
And Texas has already killed 2 conferences. They killed the Southwest Conference and they killed the Big 12. Might as well say, or tried to.
Joey says it's Oregon and Washington that keep the pack numbers up. The other teams basically bring the numbers down. That's a good argument. Matador Mike says, I think Big 12 getting split up, Oklahoma State and BYU, all 4 Texas schools going to Pac-12 and the other 6 to ACC. We talked about that earlier, Matador Mike. The Pac-12, I don't think they would ever accept BYU because of their religious beliefs.
BYU, to me, is a great nugget that y'all added, man. A lot of people can't get past the Mormon stuff, but I think that was a good move by the Big 12 because, like I said, BYU has been able to compete with the big boys for quite some time. I mean, they beat 5 Pac-12 schools just last year, I think.
They did. They're a good ad. I thought it was a home run. I mean, I don't like the fact that West Virginia's going to have to travel out there, but as far as bringing value to the conference, I think it's a no-brainer. But it would not surprise me to see some of the Texas schools go to the Big 12. I mean, Pac-12. That wouldn't surprise me that much because they've actually already considered adding Houston and TCU once before, and they decided not to do it. I bet
they were
that
really looking at TCU and Houston because of the big city markets that they're associated with.
Yeah.
So the Pac-12 were to add 2 teams tomorrow, and you were the Pac-12 commissioner, Chris. Who would you add?
If I was Pac-12 commissioner,
you can only add 2,
and I can pick of any team I want.
Yeah, a team that would actually come.
Oh, okay. San Diego State would be number 1 on my list because it gets you closer to back close to LA again.
You get that Southern California market back.
Yeah, that would be number 1. And I think I will put my academic pride to the side and go get Boise State.
Boise State.
Yeah.
It'd be a nice little road trip. I'd like to go to the Blue Turf one day.
Yeah. I mean, that'll never happen because Boise State's academics are not up to their standards, but we all know.
Boise State used to be a junior college? Like literally?
I did not, but I take it back. I had somebody mention that to me once in a comment under one of my videos, but I didn't know how accurate it was.
I think it's back in the early 70s or late 60s that they were at junior college. One time they were in Division I AA. They were in something called the Big Sky Conference.
Yeah.
And they moved up to Division I.
Brownsville Beer says, only addition that really makes me scratch my head was Houston. Even then, it gets you a foothold in one of the nation's, and that's it. You get them in Houston. I mean, that was I think that was really the only draw to adding Houston because their fan base, even though they're in a big city, their fan base is not that passionate. I mean,
they're not.
The fans that are there are passionate, but most Houston people are cheering for the pro teams.
That's right.
That's the problem.
Goes right back to what we was talking about with the big city universities.
Yeah.
They're not winning. Great. They're not coming, man. They're not going to watch.
Right. I agree. They're fair weather fans to an extent. Tide Guy says San Diego State and UNLV would be mine. Yeah, UNLV is one that people I'm starting to hear mentioned. I mean, they're terrible at football, but Vegas is an attractive market, man. And you could hold games there, have conference championships there. There's a lot of things you could do to bring revenue by adding a team from Vegas to your league. So
They already got one team in Colorado, but you think they would consider Air Force?
No, because I say that not that they're not valuable, but I heard on a podcast one time, and I don't remember who it was. Maybe Tony Altimore said that the one thing he thinks has kept anybody from adding any of the academies is they're controlled by the government.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to deal with the bureaucracy that's needed to deal with a school
Well, the
controlled by the
last 5
government
years or
because
so,
it makes everything more complicated, basically.
last 5 years or so, Army and Navy have picked it up a little bit. They've been much more competitive, but Air Force has always been a pretty good football program. I remember back when I was a kid in the 80s, they beat Notre Dame 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
They've always been able to win. I've always liked the Air Force. I think that helmet's pretty cool. They got the blue lightning bolt on the
I
side.
like it too. Matador Mike says academics will improve when you join the Pac-12 because they share digital. Yeah, they do, but there's a huge gap between Boise State and Stanford, brother. I know Stanford's a stretch because they're one of the top academic schools in the country, but I mean, even when you Cal or any of those, with the exception, the only two schools that really don't meet. Well, Oregon's not that. Oregon's academics are good, but they're not great. But everybody else's is. Washington's really high, Cal's really high, Stanford's really high. Arizona and Arizona State, believe it or not, have really high academics. Utah, I mean, uh, but you're right, it would improve it, but it's not going to bring it up to their standards, even if they added them in.
That's probably why the Pac-12, like you said, was considering Texas, because they don't have any teams in that market and it's still west of Mississippi.
And this Behringer says looking at the blue turf at Boise State gives him a headache.
Yeah, especially when they got them blue ass helmets on blue turf. It's hard to see the player, right?
Yeah. David Z, Iowa State has the biggest fan base in the Big 12. That is actually, based on the data I have seen, that is not true. That honor goes to Oklahoma State, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Or it's either Oklahoma State or West Virginia one that holds that title.
Iowa State's got some crazy fans, man.
They do. They're very passionate fans.
I
But
went to the Independence Bowl when Alabama wasn't very good, and they played Iowa State and beat them on a last second missed field goal by Iowa State. A lot of Iowa State fans said it was good.
can you hear? I lost you. Talk.
Yeah, I got
Still
a
there?
phone call.
Okay.
It was our little buddy Jonathan
Oh,
Lewis.
was it? I
I
actually
call
may
him
have
up
that.
or show up, man. I'm gonna have to slap him.
I may I may have that information that he's talking about. Fan base sizes. Here we go. Why is it not coming up?
I believe they had Seneca Wallace that year when we played him in the Independence Bowl. Not sure. No, I think it might have been somebody else. But they had some crazy chants, man. It was pretty vulgar. Is all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna repeat what they were saying, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's
Do Iowa
something
State
about
fans?
referee, blah 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 to your daughter, that kind
Ooh,
of stuff.
yeah, that ain't good.
I'm like, how'd y'all get that from?
All right, here we go. I've got it right here on the screen. I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see. Maybe.
If Jonathan Lewis had been watching this live stream, he would have known that I was talking on here. And I called him now. I'm gonna get on him.
I hear you.
Hey man, where's your donation at, Jonathan? Well, we need some money up in here.
That's funny.
I'm gonna start bringing one of them plates like they got at church, man. Pass it around. Try to get you some money.
Yeah. Here we go. Average fan base sizes. Big 12 right here. West Virginia 1.84 million, Texas Tech 1.65 million, Oklahoma State 1.42 million, BYU 1.03 million. Iowa State's all the way over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7th behind Kansas even. So
I guess you could say that they may be one of the more passionate fan bases.
oh, absolutely. I don't doubt
Yeah.
that a bit. I'm not trying to throw shade at Iowa State by any stretch. I'm
Oh,
just
I know. It was just a curiosity thing. You
yeah.
want to try to
I wanted
find
to
out for him.
yep, but right there it
Try to
is.
help him, try to help
Point
him
eight
out.
810,000 average is
Who's
about the
number
average
one?
size of
West Virginia.
West Virginia at 1.8 million, which is
Who's
almost
number?
2 is
Who's
Texas
number?
Tech.
Texas Tech's number 2.
Mhm. Oklahoma State's 3rd.
Okay.
BYU actually is 4th. Surprisingly,
Oh, yeah.
Cincinnati's last.
I can't believe old Rickham's up there.
Yeah, they got a passionate. That's another one that has a very passionate fan. They throw tortillas at people when they run out on the field.
I like that. Fix me something to eat.
Yeah, but yeah, Iowa State's just barely smaller than Kansas, or actually they're quite a bit smaller than Kansas, but just a touch bigger than TCU.
I bet Kansas is more basketball than anything.
They are, I would imagine. But then you got believe it or not, Baylor has a smaller fan base than UCF.
People act like Kansas has been crappy forever, but they used to be pretty good under Mark Mangino. They even climbed up, I think, to like number 1 or number 2 in the nation, them in Missouri, back in the early 2000s. And then they both lost a few games and ended up going to pretty decent. But I think Kansas actually went to the Orange Bowl that year.
Oh yeah, in 2007 they did because that was the year West Virginia got knocked out of the national title game.
Yeah, man, it pissed me off for real.
And Kansas ended up having a better record than them. They weren't in the same conference at the time, but Kansas ended up passing them in the polls, I think.
That was the year that everybody lost in the same weekend, and you had a 2-loss team get in, LSU, and they beat Ohio State, and LSU was like the first team with 2 losses to win a national title in like 50 years.
Right.
I think the team before that was Minnesota back in the early 60s.
Yeah. Bo Stacker wants to know how your new grandbaby's doing.
He's doing great, man. I mean, people say that, been telling me how awesome it is to have a grandbaby, and you really don't know until it happens to you, man. It's I don't know what to say, man. My daughter named him after me, so my heart's filled with joy, man. It's great. It's awesome.
That's great. I'm happy for you, man. Rounds and Beer says Cincinnati's problem is that they're sandwiched between the territory for 2 huge fan bases in Ohio State and Kentucky. T-shirt fans in Cincy for years weren't watching the Bearcats. That's a good point. Ohio State pretty much dominates the state of Ohio, I would imagine.
You could almost say Cincinnati is like one of those pro towns too. I mean, they're all about the Reds and the Bengals, I guess, but the Bengals have sucked for so long. You think they might be able to make a little headway?
Yeah. They're arguing about attendance in the chat, which I don't have time to pull. I think I've got that information too, but I'm not going to take time to pull it up. But anyway, I'm going to have to jump off here. It's been an hour and 17 minutes, but JPC, I appreciate you hopping on here and taking time out of your day to come on here and chat it up about college football. And just tell everybody once again where to find you before we sign off.
I'm Outlaw of College Football on YouTube. I'm also on Twitter at OCF Productions, and then you can also holler at me on Facebook under Jesse Paul Clark.
Awesome, and obviously our Twitter handles are both scrolling across the bottom of the screen. I'm at Coos206. Obviously, right here on YouTube, I'm on I have a Coos Corner Facebook page as well, so you can hit me up on there. I'm releasing some of my content on podcasts now: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, any major podcast network. So anyway, I appreciate everybody coming on here today and chatting it up with us. And until the next time, Q Country Roads.
Later.